Let me tell you something about anger. The angriest person probably never raises their voice. Think about it. The coworker who is always fine. That parent who never loses their cool. That friend who has been smiling through hell for 15 years straight. Those are not calm people. Those are pressure cookers. Those are volcanoes wearing business casual. Real rage doesn't always scream. Sometimes it just sits there, simmering, waiting, building pressure behind a smile so perfect it could sell toothpaste. And one day, could be Tuesday, could be 20 years from now, something breaks and everybody acts surprised. I never saw it coming, they say. They seem so together, they say. They were always so nice. Or were they? See, that's the problem because here's what nobody tells you. Whom you spend your whole life, when you spend your whole life swallowing your anger, it doesn't digest, it doesn't disappear, it just changes. It becomes something else, something that eats you from the inside while you're out here pretending everything is fine. Welcome to the psychology of repressed rage. And if you want to see what it looks like when an entire society runs on repressed anger, watch American Beauty. That movie is a masterclass in what happens when everyone is pretending, when everyone is performing, when everyone is holding in so much rage that the whole suburban dream is basically one collective aneurysm waiting to happen. Let's break it down, shall we? Rage is primal, right? It is not some intellectual thing you think your way into. It is your body going alert, boundary violated, dignity compromised, self respect under attack. Heat in your chest, jaw clenching, that feeling like something needs to move through you right now or you might actually explode. That is not dysfunction, that is information. That is your psyche trying to protect you. Healthy anger says, hey, this, is, this situation is fucked up and we need to change it. It mobilizes you, it gives you energy to defend yourself, to set boundaries, to demand better. But here is where it gets complicated because most of us will learn early that anger is dangerous. Maybe your parents shut down when you got mad. Would you love called you disrespectful? Maybe you learned that showing anger meant losing connection, losing safety, losing your place in the family. Or maybe you're at work and you realize if I speak up about this, I am getting fired. Or you're in a relationship and you know if I express how angry I actually am, this whole thing falls apart. So you adapt, you swallow it, you tell yourself it is not worth it. I'll let it go. I am being the bigger person. And on some level, that is survival. That is intelligent. But here's what happens over time that survival mechanism becomes a prison. You can't turn it off. Your nervous system learns that anger itself is a threat. So you stop letting yourself feel it. You redirect it into anxiety, perfectionism, guilt, compliance. You split into two people the one who is smiling on the surface and the one who is screaming underneath where nobody can hear. Look at Lester Bonham, the guy at the center of American Beauty. First line of the movie, it tells you in less than a year I'll be dead. And the way he sees it, flat, empty, like he's already gone, like he died years ago and his body just forgot to stop moving. This man spent 20 years swallowing his anger. His wife treats him like his furniture. His daughter looks at him with contempt. His joy is slowly humiliating him to death. And he just takes it, smiles, nods, goes along. That is not peace. That is not maturity. That is a man who learned that expressing anger costs more than disappearing. So he disappeared. And the anger? No, that didn't go away. He turned around, inward, became depression, became that dead look in his eyes, became him sleepwalking through his own life. That is what repressed rage looks like. Not a guy punching walls, a guy who is so calm is basically a ghost. Now, here's something we don't talk about enough. In every family, every workplace, every friend group, there's someone who is unconsciously taking on the job of being the emotional shock absorber. You know what I'm talking about? The person who smooths things over, who senses tension and immediately adjusts to diffuse it, who holds everyone else's anxiety in their body so the room stays calm, who makes themselves smaller so everyone else can be bigger. We call these people peacemakers, easygoing, low maintenance. We say they are so chill or never cause problems. But here is what we are really saying. Thank you for absorbing our dysfunction so we don't have to deal with it. And these people, they are dying inside. In American Beauty, damn near everyone is playing this role. Lester absorbs his family's contempt. Caroline, his wife, absorbs the demands of looking successful in a system designed to break her. Their daughter Jane absorbs appearance narcissism. But you want to see what this looks like in its absolute endpoints? Look at Barbara Fitz, the colonel's wife, the woman you barely notice because there's barely anything there to notice. She drifts through that movie like a ghost. Empty stare, flat voice, moves like a robot. When she speaks, which is rare, it is in these hollow, broken fragments, like talking cost her something she no longer has. Barbara is what happens when you spend so long containing someone else's violence that you stop existing. The colonel, her husband, is this rigid, terrifying authoritarian, military, controlling, closeted, and furious about it. And Barbara, she absorbed all of it, his rage, his shame, his need for dominance. She's been the container for his toxicity for so long that there is no Barbara left, just a shell, just a body going through motions. She serves dinner, she stares into space, she's present, but she's not alive. And here is the thing that will break your heart. We praise this shit. We look at someone who is holding it together under impossible circumstances and we call them strong. We call them mature. We never ask what it is costing them to maintain that composure. Barbara Fritz is what strength looks like when you take it too far. When you absorb and absorb and absorb until there's nothing left to absorb with. She didn't explode, she just evaporated, disappeared from the inside out. She's still breathing, but she's not living. And nobody notices because she's doing her job perfectly, keeping the peace by erasing herself. That is not strength. That is a tragedy. So here's the paradox. Repression starts as self-preservation. It is rational. It is adaptive. As a kid, showing anger can legitimately get you hurt. Parents might withdraw love, punish you, gaslight you into thinking your feelings are not real. As an adult, same thing. You show anger at work. You are difficult or not a team player. You show anger in a relationship, you are labeled crazy or too much. You express rage as a woman, you are labeled hysterical. You express rage as a black person, you are labeled threatening. The system punishes anger unless you have the right kind of power to get away with it. So you learn, you adapt, you stay agreeable, flexible, you perform calm even when you're dying inside. You become so good at managing other people's comfort that you forget what your own comfort even feels like. And it works for a while. You stay employed, you stay married, you stay in people's good graces. But here is the cost. The mechanism that kept you safe becomes the architecture of your smallness. You can't turn it off. Your nervous system gets wired to treat any kind of self assertion as danger. So you stop talking, you stop taking up space, you stop asking for what you need, you stop saying no. Life becomes this exhausting performance of making yourself acceptable, smiling while suffocating, nodding while drowning. Lester played the defeated husband for 20 years to avoid conflict, and it worked. He kept his marriage, kept his job, kept the appearance of stability. But he also vanished, became invisible. His wife looks right through him. His daughter treats him like he is embarrassing. He is alive, but he is not living. Caroline went the opposite direction, turned all that suppressed rage into obsessive control. Everything has to be perfect. The house, the career, the image. Remember where she spills beer on the couch? This is a $4,000 sofa upholstered in Italian silk, she said. That scene is devastating because you realize she's not mad about the couch. She's holding onto the couch like it's the only thing keeping her from falling apart. Because if the couch isn't perfect, if the house isn't perfect, if the image isn't perfect, then what is she? She doesn't know. She's built her entire identity around performance. There is no person underneath, just void, just fear. And Barbara submitted so completely to her own husband's authoritarianism that she's not even a person anymore. She's a function, a ghost in an apron. The movie shows us that the movie shows us this visually too. Look at those houses, those lawns, everything manicured, everything symmetrical, everything contained. That is the suburban contract. Will give you safety and belonging, but you have to restrain yourself. You have to be acceptable. You have to hide anything that is too raw, anything that is too real, anything that is too alive. This is the double bind trauma therapists talk about. Speak your truth and risk abandonment. Stay silent and lose yourself. And people live in that trap for decades, oscillating between explosion and implosion, never finding a way out. Here is what is wild. Repressed rage almost never shows up as rage. It shows up as everything else, as depression, which is anger turned inward. Lester's flat affect is I'll be dead in a year. That's not sadness. That is rage with nowhere to go. So it attacks the only target available, himself. It shows up as anxiety because that is your nervous system staying on high alert because it knows something is unresolved. Caroline's terror of failure, her compulsive striving, her inability to relax for one goddamn second, that is a woman running from feelings she can't afford to feel. It shows up as perfectionism, which is anger sublimated into the fantasy that if you are flawless, you will finally be safe. Watch Caroline slap herself in the car screaming, I refuse to be a victim, while being her own worst abuser. That is not self improvement. That is violence dressed up as motivation. It shows up as passive aggression, which is hostility that cannot be direct. That family dinner scene, the clipped words, the loaded silences, the fake politeness, everyone at that table is saying fuck you without saying fuck you. It shows up as compulsion, as addiction, as obsession. Lester gets high and walks out obsessively. Caroline has an affair. They are both trying to feel something, anything, in lives that have gone completely numb. Substitute intensities for the real thing. It shows up as dissociation. Barbara again. That vacant stare, that mechanical movement, that complete absence. She's not even repressing anymore. She's gone. She's left the building, left the chat. The body is still there, but the person evacuated. Psychologically, this is all what Young called the shadow, the parts of yourself you exile because they don't fit the image you need to maintain, the anger you can't own, the rage that is unacceptable. But shadows don't disappear, they grow in the dark, they distort, and eventually they take over. Now, let's talk about why this isn't just a personal problem, it is structural. Because culture decides whose anger gets permission and whose gets pathologized. Now, let's talk about gender. In the movie, Lester is emasculated. You are just an ordinary man, his wife says to him, and it destroys him because he's failed at performing masculinity. But when he tries to reclaim it, he becomes a teenage boy buying a sports car, lusting after his daughter's friend, rejecting all responsibility. Patriarchy offers men two options: dominate or be dominated, and that's it. And women, well, Caroline's anger has no legitimate outlet. She can channel it into a real estate career or hide it in a motel room with her affair partner, but direct anger, female rage, that is hysteria. That is being difficult. That is career suicide. Barbara represents the ultimate feminine sacrifice. The woman who said yes to everything until there was no woman left. Just compliance. Just erasure. Now there's a class aspect of it. These are middle class professionals. They've, made it. Which means they are not even allowed to be unhappy. They have the house, the jobs, the staff, and the stuff. They are supposed to be grateful. The corporate world demands Lester stay neutral, professional, composed, while a boss half his age humiliates him. That is the violence of professional class responsibility. You have to smile while being destroyed. You have to call it efficiency when they are robbing you of dignity. Then there's the sexuality aspect of it, and that is where Colonel Fitz comes in. Colonel Fitz built his entire personality around denying he's gay. The military bearing, the authoritarianism, the violence, it is all a fortress, a defense system against his own desires. And when that fortress cracks, when he kisses Lester in the rain, desperate, drenched, terrified, and Lester gently says, I think he got the wrong idea. What did that do to him? That was not just rejection. That is the collapse of everything because the rejection isn't cruel, it is kind, it is honest, and honesty is the one thing the colonel's psyche cannot survive. Because if he can be honest, then he didn't have to lie for 40 years. He didn't have to destroy his wife. He didn't have to become a monster. He could have just been himself. And oh, that realization is so unbearable. So he kills it. Kills the mirror, showing him what it could have been. The film is showing us that repression is not a personal failure. It is a social requirement. The system rewards composure, promotes people who don't rock the boat, celebrates your ability to absorb injustice without complaint. But that composure is violence. It is just violence you do to yourself so the system does not have to. It is self loathing. Now, here is where American Beauty gets really brilliant. By the end of the film, you don't know who killed Lester. The movie strongly implies it is the colonel. You see him covered in blood, silent, destroyed, but the way it is structured, it makes you consider everyone. And that's not lazy storytelling. That is the point. Because by the end of this film, every single character has enough repressed rage to commit murder. Let's run through it. Caroline, you see her at a gun range earlier, practicing after a business failure. Lessers rejected her sexually, mocked everything she values, exposed the entire performance as empty. If she killed him, she would be eliminating the person who proved her life is meaningless. Jane, well, has is adolescent fury. She's watching her father lost after her best friend while her mother obsesses over appearances. Both parents failed her completely. If she killed him, it would be punishing the father who violated his role by sexualizing her world. And then there is Ricky, the neighborhood kid who films dead things, talks about death like it's beautiful. It's like God looking right at you. If Ricky killed Lester, it might not even be anger, it might be mercy. He saw a man wake up in a system that can't sustain awakening. Maybe he gave him an exit. A gentle one. And then there's Angela, the teenage girl Lester fantasizes about. Her whole identity is being desired. When Lester finally has a chance to sleep with her and instead sees her as just a kid, when he stops, it protects her but also shatters her. Her performance collapsed. If she killed him, it would be narcissistic rage at being seen instead of being wanted. The Colonel, we have been building to this. It doesn't just want Lester, he wants what Lester represents. Throughout the film, he watches Lester transform, sees him working out, laughing, getting high, coming alive, and it touches him. Because the Colonel spent his whole life denying himself that possibility. He became a tyrant. He destroyed his wife. He made his son terrified of him, all to suppress who he really is. Then Lester proves, guy, he didn't have to. He could have just lived. When the Colonel kisses Lester and gets rejected, kindly, gently, it is not the no that destroys him. It is the compassion in it, the honesty, because it shows him Lester has what the Colonel wants: freedom, self acceptance, the ability to be real. And the Colonel can't have it because he spent too long becoming someone else. He's already murdered who he actually is, and he murdered Barbara to turn her into a ghost to maintain the lie. If the Colonel killed Lester, he killed the proof that the suffering was optional, that Barbara's erasure was preventable, that he could have been free this whole time. The ambiguity is the point. It says this system broke everyone. The suburban dream created so much pressure that everyone could have snapped. They are all bombs. They are all at the edge. We are just watching to see who goes off first. So, what's the alternative? How do you live with rage without it destroying you? American Beauty shows us Lester trying, and here is what it looks like. 1. Stop lying. Lester tells his boss, I'm just an ordinary guy with nothing to lose. He stops performing success, stops pretending, just says what is true. That's the first move, refusing the fiction. The second move, boundaries, no bombs. When he quits his job, he's not exploding. It's clear. Pay me severance. I'll tell everyone you're fucking the new hire. That's anger used as leverage, not destruction. 3. Know the difference between desire and harm. This is the big one, the Angela scene. He has been fantasizing about this girl the whole film. She's in his room, willing, and then she admits, scared, vulnerable, that she is a virgin. And Lester stops. You're just a kid, he says as he covers her. Asks how she's doing. Becomes for one moment the father he should have been instead of the predator he was becoming. That's not repression, that's integration. That's a man who can feel his desire and respond to reality with care. We can hold the fire without letting it consume everything. Then accept death. Lester's final words as he's dying are about beauty. His grandmother's hands, his daughter as a baby, falling snow. There's so much beauty in the world. Sometimes I feel like I don't see. I can't take it, he says. That's the man who is finally present, who has stopped performing and started experiencing. But here is the catch. His integration happens the moment he dies, or maybe that's the point of it. He died to who he used to be. The film won't give you a happy ending, won't say, do these 4 steps and you're fixed. It asks, can you wake up in a system designed to keep you asleep and actually survive it? Because look at who is left. Caroline screaming, Jane and Ricky running, the corner sitting in blood soaked silence, Barbara staring into nothing with the same dead eyes she's had the entire time. Nobody made it out whole. Let's bring this home. Repressed rage isn't some niche psychology thing. It's not just for people in therapy or watching art films. It is the condition of modern life. We live in systems, families, jobs, culture that require us to suppress ourselves to belong, to smile while suffering, to stay calm while being violated, to absorb everyone else's chaos so they can stay comfortable. And the cost, well, look at Barbara Fitz. That is the cost. A person who is physically present but psychologically gone, who absorbed so much she disappeared. She didn't explode, she erased herself, and everybody benefited from her erasure except her. Lester represents the opposite. He woke up, felt his rage, acted on his desires, reclaimed his life, and it's killed him. So, what is the third option? Well, the film hints at it with Jane and Ricky, two young people who have not been fully absorbed yet, who see through the bullshit, who live together at the end. Maybe they can build something different. Maybe they can hold the full spectrum, range of tenderness, anger, and love without fracturing. But that's just a maybe. The film does not promise anything. What it does do is show us the stakes. You can disappear like Barbara, absorb until there's nothing left, become a shell, a ghost, safe but not alive. You can explode like the colonel, deny everything until the denial itself becomes lethal. Destroy what you can't accept, take everyone down with you. Or you can try to integrate, feel everything, including rage, without being possessed by it. Use anger as information. Let it show you where your boundaries are. Let it fuel our clarity instead of our destruction. But the integration, well, that's not comfortable. That is not safe. That means risking conflict, risking rejection, risking the loss of belonging in systems that demand our silence. It means choosing aliveness over acceptability. And most people can't do it because the cost feels too high. So they stay small, stay quiet, stay fine. And 20 years later, they wake up. If they wake up at all and realize they have been dead the whole time. Rage will return, but that is not a threat, that is just biology. Every time someone crosses your boundary, Every time you feel the gap between who you are and who you are performing to be. Every time the world asks you to shrink, rage will show up because it is supposed to. It is how you know you are still alive. And when it comes, you've got three options. Absorb it until you're Barbara, gone but still breathing. Deny it until you're the colonel, destroying everything including yourself. Or integrate it, name it, use it, let it tell you what needs to change. Lester almost got there. That final moment covered in blood, smiling, talking about beauty. That is a man who finally understood, who finally felt everything at once and did not run from it. He had to die to get there. You don't. But you do have to wake up. I have to wake up. We have to wake up. We have to stop pretending the smile is real. We have to recognize that the fire we are sitting on is not the problem. The problem is pretending it is not there. The problem is building our whole life around keeping everyone else comfortable while we burn. The problem is thinking that if we just stay calm enough, controlled enough, small enough, everything will be okay. Well, it won't, because the rage isn't going anywhere. And the longer we pretend it doesn't exist, the more it runs our life from the shadows. So here is the question American Beauty leaves us with. How long are we going to keep smiling? How long before we admit that the fire beneath is real, that the anger is valid, that we desire to take up space, to have boundaries, to stop absorbing everyone else's dysfunction at the cost of our own soul? Barbara Fitz stayed quiet her whole life and she disappeared. Lester Bonham woke up and he got 1 year of actually living before it killed him. And maybe we can find the third way, the one where we are honest, where we are whole, where we hold the rage without letting it consume us, where we